First, I want to tell you the deep appreciation and gratitude that I have for you, because your book, this book right here, I swear it was highlighting.
You rock.
I remember reading it on the plane and my husband's like, are you going to highlight the whole thing? I'm like, if I need to, if that's what I got to do.
That's awesome. Thank you for reading it.
I learned about it through a yoga teacher, Yoga with Ashley. Have you heard of her?
I have not heard of that, no, or of her, no.
She promotes your book heavy to everyone that works with her.
Oh, well, please send her my appreciation if you're still in contact with her.
Yeah, I will. And so I read it, and I read it begrudgingly because, you know, who wants to read a finance book? And it was actually really, really good. And it got me really excited about managing money. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes. And okay, so I wanted to ask you, because there is a part in the book toward the beginning where you experience something that a lot of us do when you're in business, you know, that you're doing really well and then, you know, you hit the crash.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so that part that was really about your daughter, who she came to you and she's like, here you go with her piggyback daddy. Don't worry, it's going to work out. Right. And I totally relate to that. So can you, putting yourself in that moment, what was the mindset that helped you bounce back after having everything?
Sure.
And then losing everything?
Yeah. Yeah. And you know, I question if I quote unquote had everything. In retrospect, I mean, on the outside, yes, I did. But on the inside, I don't know if I had it yet. And what I mean is, so I lost everything. I grown some businesses and sold them, and I grew some businesses and sold them. And there was this internal arrogance, probably external arrogance too. Lost everything out of just foolish financial decisions, a lack of understanding of really how business operates healthily. And my daughter, she was 9. She volunteered her piggy bank and said, Daddy, I'll cover our expenses. It's the most horrible moment in my life. And in retrospect, it's the moment I'm most grateful for in my life. Now, it wasn't like the next morning I woke up and said, oh my gosh, I got the solution for this. I'm going to, you know, fix everything. I started to drink and couldn't sleep and went through depression for a couple of years, a functional depression, but depression nonetheless. In retrospect, I think what changed the mindset was, they talk about the beginner's mind. It's kind of a Buddhist concept. And I just started reinvestigating everything and said, I don't know the answers. And it invoked this kind of curiosity. And I still feel this way today. I know very, very little. And actually, the more I discover about anything, I realize the less I know about everything. And so I think I've become super curious about really what makes entrepreneurship a successful journey for people, financially, time-wise, passion, impact, all those things. And that mindset shift has helped me tremendously. I'm so much more joyful in my businesses. I make a lot more money than I ever dreamed of. And I'm working with entrepreneurs like yourself and talking to folks that I never thought I'd come in contact with. It's been amazing. And I think it's that beginner mind, to be honest.
Yeah. There is so I was talking to my husband about this. We talk a lot when we walk with the dog. It's like That's the great. Talking time. Yeah. And so we're thinking, you know, it's an art. It takes skill to be able to make money and then lose it all and then get back up and make it again. Like not everybody can do that. And so what is that? What is that skill? Is it resilience? Is it what?
Yeah. Well, the losing money part's pretty easy. I think most people know that. I got that one figured out. Like how to blow money. It's so easy. Someone said, I don't know who to attribute it to, but someone did say, you'll never out earn your spending. It's human nature. So I don't think the mindset has been resilience. It's been, at least for me, understanding my natural wiring, which I suspect is similar to you and your husband's and everyone listening to the show. And the core wiring we have, there's a behavioral principle called Parkinson's law. And really what the principle states is that as a resource expands in its availability, we'll consume more of it. So I'm drinking tea right now out of a Cracker Barrel mug. And I will drink all of this tea. I love Cracker Barrel. I will drink all of this tea because I fill this to the brim. If this was a teacup that was much smaller, I'd drink less tea. And if it was bigger, I'd probably drink more. So the container is actually dictating the consumption. So when it comes to money, the more money we have, it is our default wiring to actually spend more. So most entrepreneurs realize, gosh, my business seems to be growing, but I'm never making anything. It's because of Parkinson's law. We see more money, we spend more money. It's how we're wired. So knowing that, we can control or channel our behavior to the outcome we want. So what we do is we put constraints around it. we intentionally get a small teacup and serve less tea. In our business, we set up accounts at our bank, and those bank accounts are the equivalent of our teacups. When money comes in, we divide it up into these different accounts, and now you see what's truly available. So in the classic example, I get a $1,000 deposit. I'm like, woohoo, got $1,000. But now by dividing this money up into the different cups, I see, oh, well, part of that has to cover my own salary so I can sustain what I'm doing. Part of it needs to pay taxes because the tax bill is a coming. And part of it needs to cover payroll if you have employees, and maybe profit, which is a reward for running a business. That's not salary for you. And some of it for the operating expenses. So maybe we have 5 or 6 different responsibilities for that $1,000. And each account, if we divide it evenly, gets $200. So now I don't say, oh, I have $1,000. I can spend it on the next need. I say, oh, I have $200 in my operating expenses. That's my spending. So it contains our natural behavior to spend what's available. That's the key.
That really did it for me when you talk about having all these different accounts or the buckets, and it's just so much easier to manage too, because instead of looking through this long spreadsheet of things that I have to say, okay, this goes with that, I just look at one and I see the amount that's in there and I'm like, okay, I got it or I don't got it, like you just said.
Yeah. Well, this points to the definition of what you are. You are human. This is normal. We take a path that is convenient and easy, and we make judgments based on what we see. The problem with a spreadsheet is it's somewhere else. It's remote. You have to take an extra step of logging in, evaluating it, considering it. And complexity, for most people, especially myself, it ain't my thing. I need real simple. Otherwise, I get overwhelmed, frustrated, and I abandon. So bringing complexity is rarely the solution. It's simplicity. But we also want to have what's called a behavioral intercept. When I say what's called, as my own term, a behavioral intercept is what's the natural behavior, and let's insert something in that pathway to ensure you have to look at it. So the profit first system we set up at your bank, there's one spot that pretty much every entrepreneur of smaller businesses, and might say smaller, I mean up to millions and millions. I've talked with countless ones. There's 36 million of us in the US alone that do 25 million or less. Most of us hundreds of thousands. And all of us log into our bank account to see how much money we have. So it's very clear that that's where we need to have these cups, envelopes, if you will. It's the envelope system, but just modernized at the bank. And you log in, you see what money is available for what purpose. They're labeled accordingly. And now you're starting to control that behavior because you have an awareness of the spend before you spend it. I call it the pre-allocation. And the classic example I use is like Thanksgiving. We hosted at our house, and my wife and I, we took the turkey out, and people take the stupid Instagram photos like no one's ever seen a turkey before. And then we carve it up. And the reason you carve the turkey is you don't say to all the guests, hey, everyone for themselves. Whoever fights for it or wants it first gets the entire turkey. That's absurd. You've guessed the table to serve, so you carve the turkey. Well, that's what we have to do with money. The business isn't first come, first serve for whatever the next expense is. We have to allocate to all of the guests or responsibilities of the business. That's why I have these multiple accounts at the bank.
Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking for retreats, because our audience here is mostly retreat leaders, retreat goers, retreat people.
Retreaters. Yeah, love it.
Yeah. Do you do retreats, by the way?
Totally. I just got back from one.
But your retreat, or you attended?
Both. Well, on this one I attended. I attended one in Miami. And what I love about them, you get away from your business for a day or a week, and you're physically disconnected, but your mind disconnects, allowing you to work on the bigger things, which could be the business or it could be life. I love them. I do assuredly 2 a year, sometimes up to 4 retreats a year.
I need to look into that. I didn't know that. That's really cool.
Join us.
What are your retreats about?
Well, different ones. So I've one, actually this will be 2 this year, but one assuredly for authors only. And it's a group of authors that have generally sold a large volume of books in the nonfiction space. I'm really trying to surround myself with like-minded people and people playing at the level I want to play at. I facilitate that retreat, and we've grown now. It's pretty sizable. It's about 50 attendees. Those are great, but there's also a challenge that you lose the intimacy. So I went to another one down in Miami, which was a handful of, in this case, authors. I also do a annual retreat of just business owners. That's the other kind of professional part of my life. And I do that annually up in Boston. We will go to the same location every year. It's an adjunct facility for MIT, and a large group has been going there year after year for 25 years now. And what's so amazing is this intimate connection and bond builds, but you see the trajectory of people growing and their business is collapsing and growing again, and life matters that happen, and all these different things, and people passing away. It brings such a holistic perspective of what entrepreneurship is. It isn't just a transaction. It isn't just a growth trajectory. It's just an aspect of your life. I love those retreats.
That sounds amazing. And that fluctuation of up and down, things going well, things going not so well, all the peaks and valleys. It is a huge part about being an entrepreneur, having a startup, or just, having your own business. And there was a question in here that was related to that. The why. Yeah. That it's so important to stay connected to a bigger purpose for that reason, because it's not easy. And I mean, in your retreats, what's that golden thread that keeps people
kind of
doing
going.
the crazy thing? And
yeah. I'll show you. I'll see if my camera will go there. So there it is. Oops, it's zooming out too much. I thought it would but that's my life's purpose. It says eradicate entrepreneurial poverty. And so I keep this is my home office. I also have one at the office. I have that everywhere as a reminder of what my defined purpose is. It's interesting or obvious or both. Every entrepreneur I meet with or author has their own purpose, and purpose is a very, personal thing, and it's self-given, I think, or God-given, however you want to define it. But there's no right or wrong purpose. It's just something that resonates with you. What I have found, my conclusion is, for many people, it's a resolution or an attempt to resolve a past pain or missed opportunity. So for me, it was my entrepreneurial failings, struggling financially, struggling with time, young children. And I missed the first time one of my sons walked. I missed every sporting event for my daughter except for one. And I'm embarrassed about that now, but that visceral connection of that was not right for me has me this aware that I was sacrificing everything to make a business successful. And that's not necessary. And that's what entrepreneurial poverty is, this belief that we have to give up financially, give up time, give up everything to make the business a success. That's a lie. Well, in these retreats, everyone has their own purpose, whatever it may be. But there's a common purpose too in these retreats. And the common goal is, at least for the entrepreneurial group, is an elevation of the individual. Not necessarily to even be a better entrepreneur, but to play at a higher level game, however they're defining it, but to be of support of each other, and to do in a way where there's blatant candor and honesty with each other, not criticism to be critical, but observational ways to support each other. I think any retreat has to have a common aspect to it, a common purpose, and also at the same time allow the individuals to be expressing and expanding their own personal purpose through that outlet.
Yeah. Okay. Do you still have those, going back to what you said about the buckets really quick. So if anybody out there wants to do that, because I started doing that and realized that with certain banks, you're going to be paying a lot of fees to begin with when you're starting it up.
My God. I know.
So do you still have banks that you work with and profit first
friendly
counselors or coaches?
We have those too. Yeah. So there's definitely profit first friendly banks. There's definitely profit first coaches. So I'll give a little preamble to this and I'll give you the answers. So I invite everyone listening in to try profit first. The core principle is when money comes into your business, cash deposits, you take a predetermined percentage of that money, remove it from your business so you don't steal from yourself. And now your business, that's profit. Now your business knows what's left over to operate it. It's a really profoundly simple concept. It's the pay yourself first principle is what it is. And it's been the greatest savings mechanism in U.S. history by paying yourself first. It's the 401k. And people that participate in 401k amass wealth for their retirement because they take it away and we adjust off the remainder. So it's just, it works for us. So it's been a principle that's been around forever. It's just sadly hasn't been used in business. So that's the core concept. There's more steps to it. The cups we were talking about, or the plates or envelopes, whatever you want to call them, and other elements too. But you got to do it at the bank. It's behavioral intercept. The banks that are good for this are generally the regional banks or community banks. And I'm selfishly promoting them. There's an online bank that's amazing. It's who I use. It's called Relay. And they're an online banking platform. I believe in them so much. I do all of my business banking with them, and I set up a link even. So it's really easy. It's banklikemike.com because that's my bank. And you'll see what's going on there. Why that's cool is they charge no fees. They automate the profit first process. When money comes in, they'll carve it up for you based upon your principles. And they even now will fund your profit account. I think it's like $50 just because you opened an account. So instead of getting in the old days, you used to get a toaster when you got an account with a bank. They're actually putting money in your profit account and you don't get charged a dime. I am shocked that other banks charge. It's crazy because these banks are your vendors. You're their customer. This isn't like legally required. They're just trying to find ways to make more money off of you. And it's not necessary. So find a new bank that doesn't charge fees. Banklikemike.com is my recommendation. The Profit First professionals are experts in this. I think the biggest challenge people have when they read the book is they're doing Profit First, but they don't know if they're doing it right. And a Profit First professional is like a yoga instructor. Like I was actually doing yoga last night with my wife, and it's pretty scary when I don't have someone there saying, "Oh, the posture's wrong," or "This is wrong." But when there's someone to correct me, my gosh, I get the proper stretch. I get the proper strength. All the right things happen. And that's what a Profit First professional is. It's the instructor who runs the process with you and for you.
Yes. Super helpful. Gosh, and that bank sounds amazing.
I love them. I do love them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Nice. Bank like Mike.
Banklikemike.com. And I'm not like blowing smoke. Oh, I just put it down here. But I even use, this is like this is relays. I use a debit card. So it's a Visa debit card, and it's been amazing. So yeah, check them out. They may be the perfect solution.
Okay. So I want to ask you about money traps.
Yeah.
Specifically for retreats, and you do them, so that's great. That's great help. What are some warning signs that show an event might turn into a money trap?
Yeah. So there's no profit planned in advance. That's the most common trap. So what we do is we say, well, what do we think we can charge people to come? How many people do we think we can get here? It's all revenue discussions. Well, what are the costs we're going to incur? But no one says, what should the profit be? So the first thing is you got to say, we intend to run a $10,000 profit or whatever your number is, or we plan to have 20% of the revenue going to profit. Whatever that number is, pick that first and you reverse engineer from it. So pick your profit number and then reverse engineer. I think the second thing is we think that price is the biggest attractor of people. So if I cut the price more people will come. And I find that to be a very poor framing. Price, if you're competing on price, you're commoditizing yourself. Yeah, there's some people that go to Walmart because Walmart sells that same jug of milk for 75 cents less. And the reason Walmart does that is because they buy so much volume and then resell it, they can still make their margin. But me, the small business owner, I can't compete against that. So if I reduce my price, I can't get the margins they do. I'm losing out. And that's what some retreat organizers are doing. Say, well, if I get the price lower, I can get more attendance. No, you got to frame it differently. You got the miracle milk. You have the chocolate milk when Walmart only has the standard milk. You got to find a way to differentiate. And there's many ways to do it, but you got to find your way. And also give people comparisons, another technique. So to say, we're having a retreat and my competitor's having a retreat and we're different is a pretty bad comparison because it's retreat versus retreat. I'd rather, instead of doing apples to apples, do apples to orange. Say you can do a retreat with us for $7,000. I'm picking a random number. Or you can go to a organized college curriculum that's going to cost $250,000. And you can get the same wisdom extracted from that from college over 4 years, or you can do it in a few days with the right people around you. And it's got to be fair and reasonable. And I know those are perceivably very different, but if the output is the same, then you're giving people a much better perspective. Right. I think also people look at like the common typical spaces, like, oh, this hotel or that hotel. What is the atypical locations? You can really reduce your costs here and find. We actually did an event. It wasn't a retreat specifically, but we rented out an entire museum in a town, and it was a beautiful space. And we leaned into it. They had all this eclectic stuff, and it was about thinking outside the box. So we had an auditorium. The museum had an auditorium. It had meeting areas, outside space. to do food catering. Instead of hiring a catering company, we had 2 food trucks come in and people were going crazy over how much fun it was. And our costs were, I would say, more than 50% reduced off of the traditional, this is the way it's always done. So you got to look outside the box and controlling costs. Those are the common things that people aren't doing, and they should. And it could be turning a break even to losing proposition to a very profitable one.
So many things I like in there, and thinking outside of the box for sure, because you go to, especially in the wellness space, doing this has really opened my mind to all the different kinds of retreats that exist in the world. There really is a retreat for anything and everything.
Everything, yeah.
Everything. But in the wellness space, things start to look very similar.
Very similar,
So,
right?
yeah.
We're going to be in the beachfront, or we're going to be high in a mountain. You know, we're going to do the sunrise activity and the sunset. All those things. I actually wrote a book called Get Different. And what I realized in this research was that for the consumer, if we see something once and then we see it again, it becomes what's called habituated. Habituated is it's a mechanism in our mind saying, if I've seen it already, and I didn't deem it as relevant or important to me, we will automatically ignore it. So the quick story, I live outside New York City, and when for years an ambulance or whatever would come racing down the road, and people were jaywalking and sometimes getting hit by an ambulance. The great irony, it's out to save someone and it kills someone because they didn't hear the siren. Now here's the irony. It's blaring. So why don't people hear a blaring siren? Because they hear so many sirens in New York, they just already determined it's not for me. And at a subconscious level, the mind says, ignore it. It's habituation. It doesn't get to our brain. So they had to actually change up the sirens to burps and chirps and flashing lights. They have to change it up so that our mind registers, oh, this is a warning. So with your wellness retreat, look at what all your competition's doing. And those are things you shouldn't do. Do the opposite, because the consumer is looking at those and saying, didn't do in the past, not relevant for me. So instead of being in the ocean, be in the mountain. If they're doing the mountains, do it in the inner city in Times Square, the loudest place on the planet. Who's ever done a retreat there? And make that your advantage, saying that, the noise of the world can surround us and you can still be at peace internally. That's why we're surrounding ourselves with noise. Those things jostle the mind and get people's attention.
Yeah. Wow. Got my hair to stand up too on the skin. It's just like, ooh, that's a good idea.
There you go. Yeah. Wellness retreat in the middle of Times Square. That'd be wild. It'll be newsworthy too. My gosh.
Like finding peace in the midst of chaos. I like that. Okay. So I haven't read Clockwork. I haven't read it yet. You've written a lot of books, I just got to say. So it's going to take me some time to get through them all. But I imagine it's about like automating processes, right?
Yes. And so Clockwork, the promise is you can design a business to run itself. For most retreat organizers, owners, the retreat will only work if they're doing all of the work. And that is a really risky position to be in. If you get COVID or you're not available, the business is compromised. So how do we extract ourselves from doing things? Yes, automation is a part of it. Process is a part of it. But a bigger part of it is the empowerment of a team. And now some people say, but it's just me. I don't have a team. Well, do you have vendors you use? Do you work with hotels or locations? Those are your team. We all have teams. You may not have full-time employees, but you may have virtual help and so forth. That's your team. It's about empowering them. Now, the way to trigger this is the kind of the shocking statement, but it forces us to look at our business differently. I will go to someone that manages a retreat or runs any form of business and say, when's the next big event coming up? Well, it's coming up in 6 months. Okay. We're going to take a vacation during that time. And they're like, I'm like, yeah, you're going to leave the business at that moment. I could never do that. Well, then I say, well, why can't you do that? Like, I don't have anything in place to do that. I have to do it. Okay, well, you're leaving. So now we have a new necessity, not running the retreat, determining the systems, processes, people, empowerment, all stuff that will make it happen. So I have a business coach that said to me once, he said, Mike, if you want to get out of the weeds, the fastest way is sometimes just walk out of the weeds. You just leave it. And now you're forced to think at a higher level. That is not the Clockwork process. It's simply the impetus for implementing it. So that's where the book kind of kicks off. Leave your business, because then you'll have to operate a business as opposed to work in the business.
I love that. And then at least maybe you won't be able to automate everything, but you at least find the areas that you can automate.
Totally. So listen, I'm an author. and I do speaking events. And so people are like, well, aren't you the king of hypocrites? I'm doing a podcast with you right now. It's not somebody else. How do you do it? So I left my business. I've done it now for 6 consecutive years. I leave my business for a month during our heavy season. First of all, my team feels empowered. They don't feel I'm abandoning them. They say, wow, you trust us with the keys. That was step 1. Step 2 is when I left and things didn't work, those are the things I had to fix. And I determined we need redundancy. So I do podcasts. I don't do all of them. We have a team of experts. We talked about them, first professionals who are out there talking, and other experts like Clockwork experts. I have a speech. Actually, I'm flying out right after this to head to Canada, Montreal, to do a presentation. But I'm not the only person speaking. We have about 30 people that are doing keynotes any given month on the different topics I do. I've trained other people. So there's redundancy, and there's other people. I'm empowering other people to do it. That's what we have to consider. So when you leave your business, I'm not saying abandon your business. I'm just saying find out where you need to improve process and or insert redundancy where other people can carry the load when you're not available. Because I'll tell you one final thing before I got split is this. If you don't leave your business for 4 weeks, every year or so, and you just keep working in the business, the day will come where you will. 3 weeks?
Did you say 4 weeks?
4 weeks. I challenge you, 4 weeks. Yeah. And there's a reason I have 4 weeks. It's because a full business cycle is touched in 4 weeks. So you're invoicing, scheduling new people, laying off someone or hiring someone, all these different things happen usually in monthly cycles. So I leave my business for 4 weeks and everyone needs to do it. The thing is this. It's not that you need a vacation. It's that your business needs a vacation from you so we can find out how to improve the business. That's why we have to do it. And listen, when I leave, my assistant changes the email password so I can't sneak my way in. Like, we're out. Then I come back and I resolve issues. The reason we do this is that the business, with us absent, we can't superhero in and fix things. And now, when we do come back, our job is to fix the processes, systems, empower the people, and so forth. Most business owners are not business owners. They're business employees that simply have the title of ownership. What I'm trying to encourage people to do is become a business owner. It's the greatest way to empower the world. So my final thought is this. You look back to your kindergarten class, Kimberly, you probably had 20 or 30 kids in there. 17% of the population ever takes the risk of starting a business. So say you had 20 kids in your class, that's 3 kids. But only 20% of those 17% actually do it sustainably. That means 1 kid from your kindergarten class is running a business today. And that means it's you. And that also means there's 19 other kids that are looking for good jobs with good companies doing good things. The job of an entrepreneur is not to do the job. It's to be a creator of jobs. That's what we have to do. So if we're working in the business, we're stealing the jobs from people who want good jobs, our friends, our students, our co-students. So we got to get out of the business so we can empower other people to work in the business while we grow a business that provides for our communities.
Thank you. Thank you, Mike.
My soapbox. Oh, you're welcome.
Yes.
I was getting excited.
What a great way to end the show.
Okay.
All right.
Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate this.